The verb estar in Spanish means to be as in being or existing. Unlike the weird conjugations with the verb ser, the verb estar actually follows the normal syntax of conjugating regular AR verbs, and it looks like this in Spanish. Yo estoy, tú estás, él or ella está, nosotros estamos, vosotros estáis, and ellos están. Before I explain the primary uses of the verb estar, I first need to note a few important things about this verb. Just visually looking at its syntax, you can probably tell that the conjugation for the yo pronoun is irregular because it ends with a y. And this is done specifically to not get it confused with the demonstrative adjective esto. Esto means this in the neutral form. Whenever you're referring to something and you don't know what it is, you will always say ¿qué es esto?, indicating what is this without knowing if the object you're referring to is masculine or feminine. Another important thing to note with estar is that the pronouns tú, él, and ellos all have accents on the a, and this is also done on purpose because if you were to remove the accents, you would have different words. These words, pronounced estas and esta, mean these and this feminine, but with the accents, they mean you are and he or she is. So it's really important to put accents on them and put the emphasis on the a. As always, try not focusing on these conjugations because they're not used as often as the other ones in conversation. Now, the most important thing to note about the verb estar is that even though it means to be, as in being, its uses are completely different from the verb ser, which I explained in one of my previous videos. The verb estar mainly applies to these uses: the present progressive, location, and health, conditions, and emotions. Number 1, the present progressive. The present progressive is something that I explained in the video before this one, so you should be familiar with the syntax. But now, this is where we can start using the conjugations that apply to other pronouns. For instance, if you want to say that he is running, you would use the conjugated verb estar for the he pronoun, which would be él está corriendo. If you want to say you are thinking, you would say tú estás pensando. Both of these verbs are actions that are happening right now, which explains why the verb estar is used here. And the same principle applies to any pronoun and verb that you want to use in the present progressive. Number 2, location. And whenever I speak of location, I speak of spatial relationships relative to where something or someone is as of this moment. You might have heard the saying, ¿Dónde estás tú?, which means where are you? The reason why the verb estar is used here is because the question is asking where one is right now. And if you're answering this question, you will likewise use the verb estar by saying yo estoy in whichever location you want to say. Using location with estar can also indicate where something or someone is relative to a different object. When asking ¿Dónde estás tú?, you can also reply with yo estoy al lado de la casa, which would mean I am next to the house or to the next of the house. And the reason why estar is used here is because it uses a location in relation to something else. The same principle applies to any pronoun, verb, and location you want to use. And the last usage to know with the verb estar is health, conditions, and emotions. And this is by far the trickiest use of the verb estar because it's the number 1 concept that most students struggle with. Whenever I refer to conditions and emotions, I'm talking about adjectives that people use to refer to something that they feel right now and not a physical trait. You might remember me saying that the verb ser is used for physical traits, and while that's true, the conditions and emotions of people and sometimes objects primarily refer to something that somebody feels rather than being a factual statement. Looking at this example, both the words alto and feliz are adjectives, but one is a factual and physical trait while the other is an emotion that changes over time. While the verb ser refers to factual statements, part of which includes physical traits which are factual about oneself, the adjective is using the conjugation es because the verb ser refers to factual statements. Él es alto, he is tall, is a factual statement because you cannot change that fact. However, once you start including emotions, this is where you need to have a different sense of being, because by saying yo estoy feliz, I am happy, I'm indicating that I'm feeling happy and that my feeling will change in time rather than this being a factual statement about me. If you were to switch them and say él está alto and yo soy feliz, this is where the meaning in both sentences completely changes. By saying él está alto, you're basically saying that he is feeling tall rather than him factually being tall, which would be an incorrect use of the verb estar because the verb estar refers to conditions and emotions that actively change over time. Alto means tall and masculine, which is an adjective that refers to a physical and factual trait about oneself rather than a feeling. By saying yo soy feliz, I'm saying that I am happy, as in I am a happy person in general. I was born happy, I'm happy now, and I will die happy, all of this being a false statement. Because happiness is a feeling that changes over time, it doesn't allow the verb ser to be used here. So instead, you would want to look carefully at the difference between physical and factual traits about oneself and conditions and emotions that change over time. And with conditions and emotions, you might find these phrases and adjectives to be the most practical. And 99% of the time, they all use the verb estar because all of these conditions are emotions that change over time and don't remain factual. I am good, estoy bien, indicates that I'm feeling good rather than than me being a good person in general. You are busy, estás ocupado, indicates that you are busy as of this moment, and you will not be busy in the future, which doesn't allow the statement to be factual about you. Hence, estar is used. The doors are open, las puertas están abiertas. This means that the doors are open now, but their condition will probably change in the future. And also, you might have noticed that the ending of some of these adjectives end in o or as, and that is because adjectives in Spanish have gender and plurality. And as a matter of fact, I will describe the concept of adjectives in the video after this one. Hopefully, I'm making myself as clear as possible with what to do with the verb estar. And in case you still don't understand the concept, the verb estar mainly applies to uses that are happening right now, at this moment, and they're most likely to change in the future. Just like I listed examples in my said video, the uses of the verb estar likewise have a connective pattern across all examples that I used in this video. There are other uses of the verb estar, like weather expressions, but they're not as important as the primary uses in this video. The present progressive, location, and conditions and emotions are the primary uses of the verb estar, and all of these uses have a connection, and that is they're happening right now. By saying él está corriendo, I'm saying that he is running right now, but he will not be running in the future. By saying yo estoy en la casa, I'm saying that I'm in the house right now, but I will not be in the future. By saying tú estás ocupado, I'm saying that you are busy right now, but you will not be in the future. When you really think about it, it makes sense why Spanish has two verbs for being or to be, because half the time you utilize verbs that describe you factually, and these can never change, but on the other half of the time, you're describing yourself using traits that apply for the moment. And now, you might also understand why some teachers say that the verb ser applies to permanent traits, while estar refers to temporary traits because some conditions last forever, while others happen right now. This has been a full explanation of the verbs estar and ser. Thank you for watching this video, and hopefully, I made your learning just a bit simpler.